reflects a true lived experience, and every Green Beret or SEAL or Ranger has done this before. You're sitting down, you're having to do a SOTA brief before you go to the mission. And if you're not located with fucking higher headquarters in your little fucking team room, and there's fucking a dildo over here, a naked chick poster over there, and you just fucking move that webcam so it's right on the fucking captain. It doesn't show any of the other fucking degenerates that are to the left and right of him. And he's sitting there like, yeah, yes, and sir, we're going to be here and here, briefing his whole shit. Meanwhile, you got the Junior 18 Bravo fucking making dick jerking motions.
Say, or you failed at your job if you didn't have just a little bit of the head.
Yeah.
Just in there, just enough. So like people are like, I know what that is, but if they say anything, that means they know what it is. And then they've outed themselves.
Oh yeah. Dude. It's one of those, like, you can't, like, the war stories are great and the action movies are awesome. But what you and I both know are the greatest moments are those hilarious antics that go down outside of combat. The shit that happens in.
I've said that countless times that there needs to be a show that is that. Like, I don't want to do it a disservice, but I know more sniper teams can relate to this than I can. But like, I want a show that revolves around the stereotype. Like, it opens up. You hear me out? Like, I'm pitching this to you. So it opens up on a badass like 2-man sniper team, crawling in the middle of nowhere, and then there's like sheep farmers and all that shit, all the cliches. They dig the little spider hole. They're doing all this, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, this is badass!" There's badass music, and then like the Bravo, whoever's been to whatever school that's the sniper, has to take a shit. And then lo and behold, his buddy's hanging under a Ziploc, catching his poop, or I'm like, and then the reality of what really happens is all this shit you don't know. But dude, then again, it's not like Green Berets have the best PR machine, so I also don't know if we should also make that be a show where they're like, well, no wonder these guys don't have movies because all they do is shit in Ziploc bags. Like, no wonder they stopped after Rambo.
Yeah. That should be part of every action movie. The weird places where you'll have to stop and take a shit. Dude, I mean, people see the guys like Blaine. Blaine's a real action hero that's ripped from SF history. And by that, I mean, it's not just one, it's not really based on, but the persona really does exist. I remember I started dipping tobacco because I saw so many of the guys I looked up to with giant fucking dippers, and I'm like, that clearly this is what a Green Beret does. And then you see guys that do it going like ramp drops out of CH-47. Could be like a fucking perfect Hollywood movie. You're moving under darks, you're clearing everything, and then you realize that a human being cannot take that much nicotine and caffeine before they have to shit their brains out. And I've seen that happen, ladies and gentlemen. That's like that.
I've
pull cover for me.
Yeah, like that's I mentioned that a lot of times. Like I try not to be that war story bro vet guy, but most of the time I circle around into like a self-deprecating. I don't. Obviously, we live in a world where there's podcasts and people talk about this shit. We're not our grandpa World War II vet that's like, no, I don't want to talk about it. No. Which obviously they probably saw way more horrendous things, so maybe that's why. A whole other conversation. But I tend to like try to avoid it, but I try to also by bringing in the humor of it or just painting this really dark humor about it. And I always like telling people, I'm like, well, you have to poop, and they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, no, really think about this. How many badasses in their cool cutoff DCUs or whatever the hell sewn on pockets have been sitting there I'm just going to at least roll on my side and poop my pants sideways. So there's 1% dignity remaining versus pooping my pants laying on my back or in the prone, because like if you're on your stomach and you poop your pants, you're just like, So I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. I'm like, nobody does. You
got to be fucking disciplined.
Yeah, exactly. That makes you hard. You're not a badass until you've pooped your pants. What is that? Happy Gilmore? You ain't cool until you peed your pants.
You pee your pants. Peeing your pants is cool. Consider me, Miles.
Exactly. I'm the best way to cool. intro this. I peed my pants. Just counting the schoolhouse pant pees. That doesn't even count deployment pant pees.
Man, like I don't know why.
Yeah, where's all your gray hair?
You
I've got all son of a like you ethnic son of a bitch.
It's coming in. It's bullshit. Nice. I enjoy it. But like every Instagram ad that or social media ad or on TV, I see all these fucking ads for guys like, you need smooth skins. Like, fuck that. Men are supposed to have fucking calloused hands and look like hammered dog shit. Not like you're not supposed to be prim and like look like you're fucking 22 when you're in your 40s, man.
We
are
lucky.
You survived.
It is a very sexist luck of the draw when it comes to society and aging, man.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah, it's very true.
I actually look back at my young pictures. I'm like, ugh. Like, I like that I have a little bit of anger baked into my crow's feet, you know, like a jaded anger and extension. Really,
look at you with your pompadour hair, perfectly coiffed.
Oh yeah, God, if I just go back to the younger me and just be like, don't give a shit about some of this stuff, man. Oh my god.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, let me tell you something. The most vain people on earth are people within special operations.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you. Everybody's like, if you're not trying to look good for the time you're going to the bar, getting off, or you're going to the deployment down south, like you're just constantly like, it's all about how good you look. I need to make sure I've got and it extends to everything. You gotta have the perfect truck, the Harley. And it's like, oh, dude.
Yeah, it's so stereotypical. Yeah, it's anybody that says otherwise is full of shit. You know, I mean, it's a coincidence. I luckily have an SF flag coincidentally posed right there. You know, like that's the other thing is when it comes to like detailed minded, bordering on compulsive OCD people like us probably on the spectrum with a level of narcissism.
100%.
It doesn't. I argue it doesn't discriminate. Like you might have your niche. You know, like some guy might like Rain Man on various barrel threading and all this absurd shit, but that doesn't mean they can just turn it off when it's something else. So they're going to take that obsessed. You know, I hope I'm not just speaking for myself, but like I'm going to take the stuff I'm compulsive about and then apply it to anything. So it's like you start to be compulsive about every little thing. You're like, well, I'm not just going to compulse on Harleys. I'm going to compulse on thread counts and all these stupid shit. And you're like, this isn't cool. This isn't what I signed up for.
I can't master everything.
This is exactly. That's not fair. But I'll try. That's where it all comes crashing down.
Dude, fucking awesome, man.
Yes.
Jeff, thank you for being here, man. We've been jumping back and forth, but we finally got on the same wavelength. Our weaponized autism finally synced in.
I'm stealing that. I am stealing that.
It's 100% fucking true, man.
So
the government gave it to us.
Oh my God.
There's somebody in a lab was like, I know how to make the perfect beret. We have to infect them when they make it to the cubicle.
And that, I argue that's the problem is like people, because I'm pretty OCD and, you know, and I wouldn't, well, maybe I'm autistic. I don't know, but I was that way when I went in. So it only made it worse, you know? So I think, I think you come out depending on how you went in. And that's why the weaponized autism thing kind of hit home.
Yeah, it's trademark pending. And putting that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I'm not joking. That needs to be your podcast hat. Like the amount of people that are
designs actually in my Canva. It is coming out on
I will be
my
the
next
first
drop
one
of
to buy
t-shirts.
that. That is genius. That is. Oh my!
It's literally dropping
God.
this week.
Is it really?
Up, so,
That's amazing. I will be a first-time shopper. That is.
yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, dude. Fuck
and
yeah.
it's so
it's so true.
I love the not politically correct stuff.
Yeah,
because
you know
it's not wrong.
It's all about. So I always explain to people, it's like this is primarily a mechanism to get guys that may be on that bridge, taking that step towards getting help.
Yeah.
And you know this, just like any other special operations guy knows this. We cope with dark humor. We cope with team room talk.
Yeah.
There's been so many times, and you've probably dealt with it yourself, when you get a friend that's finally vulnerable through a series of jokes and talking, and they finally open up a little bit, and they're like, fuck, man, I'm going through a divorce, or I'm going through this, or I think I have an addiction.
Yeah.
All that shit finally comes through because you're connected with friends. You tap in your dark humor. You tap in the thing that you know that you've used to cope through various hard, fucking impossible schools. And mental health and being able to ask for help is no different. We just have to lubricate the wheels to get you in to the show, get you into the peer support group by laughing and joking, man, because that's the real authentic experience, man, that nobody can ever take from you. Like, there's so many different shows, so many different TV shows and movies, but they'll never get it right because they don't get this. The poop and cum jokes. That's it. That's a true thing.
Yep. It is. Yeah. If it doesn't have to do with some morbid way of dying or some more horrible, embarrassing way of pooping your pants, like, we won't appreciate it. And I argue, like, it's you know, and it's funny because it's obviously this isn't a whole other show itself, but we almost need to be striving for that level of desensitization, which is essentially what dark humor does. Is a glorified coping mechanism. And until somebody from Hunter 7 or somebody that wants to talk about operator syndrome and allostatic load and all that and can say I'm wrong, I would argue it's probably the only way for a certain niche of people to deal, you know, or I should say modality to deal, you know, if that's all they have. And it's not working.
We see it across the board. We see it with the firefighters, police officers, even our 911 dispatchers. They all dive into. I have a great cousin. She is a trauma nurse, and that's one of the things that we've come to understand. It's that dark. They use it too. They use it to cope through. Talk about some hard shit to deal with. Like they're dealing with it too. And I realized, like, oh shit, I'm onto something. You know, you make a few memes, make people laugh. And then before you know it, you get some DMs asking like, hey, what was that treatment center you went to? Glad you asked. Laurel Ridge Treatment Center, Mission 100. That's a shameless plug if you need help.
It's not shameless. It was pretty obvious. No, but I mean, that it gives you a relatability. You know, like if you're going to talk to I'll just trivialize it. And if you want people that relate to something, that's going to be their identifying factor so they can feel like let in. And if dark humor happens to be it, so be it. Because if somebody's going to just sit there and wallow in their own whatever they're in and they can't find a way to connect, they're just going to sit there and continue wallowing. And if I'm not saying like, oh, I'm just going to go hang out with a bunch of alcoholic child killers because I relate to them and that helps me therapeutically. But, you know, like with anything, there's a sweet spot. You know, and this is a huge disclosure thing, but a perfect example is like I started going to AA. I couldn't relate to them. Not because I think I'm higher than now, but the one nearby just was a bunch of super old dudes. You know, obviously we had one thing in common, but fortunately, everyone there had everyone but me was like, well, my breaking point was I drove a school bus of kids off a bridge, or I drove to work drunk. You know, like the horror stories that made them quit. And I was like, and so they related in that trauma, for lack of better terms, trauma bonding. Me, I was like, they're like, so why are you here? I'm like, my labs said my liver was damaged. They're like, oh, what happened? I'm like, nothing. You know, I was like, I had my labs run. I was like, oh, this is bad. I should stop. And I know why I do this. And so let's
dive into that, because alcohol is something that is killing so many of us, so many of our dudes. Like, and if it totally up to you, man, be as vulnerable as you want. Like, how did you first figure out that there was an issue?
Honestly, the labs. For me, it's a weird thing. This is like a breaking news or anything, but I've never really fully fleshed it out. So there's a little stuttery, but I'm painfully transparent, so I have no issue with that. But honestly, the big thing for me was with that obsessive compulsive attitude, typical 18 Delta, Green Beret guy, fitness guy, and I'm certain the men in our family are on the spectrum. So it's just like, this is the perfect blender of not good. But it was the weirdest thing is I would, especially COVID, you know, that's the stereotype for everybody for sure. But for me, it was ironic because I would actually count my calories while I was still drinking. Like, because I'm obsessed with fitness. I was like, I got to get my I would like, oh, I had too many calories of this, so then I'm not going to eat this much food for the day. I would literally treat it like a piece of cake. I'm like, oh, I had a lot. So I went fitness on it.
Yeah.
But a bottle of Jack Daniels at 65 calories per 1.5 ounce drink, I would drink a bottle of Jack Daniels a night. And that's fucked up. That's horrible. I'm not one to exaggerate. Like that was pretty serious. And it was actually Gentleman Jack. So I guess I should be, I don't want to be a liar. It was a bottle of Gentleman Jack.
We got to adjust the calories for that.
Yeah. Gentleman Jack, I think, is 69 per 1.5 ounce. That fucker makes you pay for that.
I thought because it was a gentleman.
Yeah, it was a little bit nicer, but no, it's the harder stuff is less calorically dense. Yeah, that should be my podcast, like the fitness alcoholic. But like,
you'd have to have one hell of a disclaimer before.
Yeah, it's like that thing at the beginning of the YouTube ones now, like the all the YouTube ones that talk about steroids. There's like a 3-minute video of like, don't do what I do. But yeah, so like that was the weirdest thing is so like. I knew logistically, it's not like I wasn't aware after every shift. This is particularly when I was living in California. I was working as a covert agent. Sounds cool. It was an undercover bodyguard. It's literally what it was. It was Paul Blart meets Jason Bourne. Like, not cool. But
it briefs well.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. But I would come home every night and I'd buy the bottle of Gentleman Jack and finish it off. And I'd still wake up the next morning, work out, and I hang over nothing. So I had no reference point. And I knew on paper, I was like, that is the definition of tolerance. Like that was like, it wasn't even a bragging point. I was in awe. I was like, holy shit. I'm doing this 3 to 5 to 7 days a week, 3 at the least. And I'm not driving drunk. It's not affecting my work. It's not affecting my relationships. It's not like I wouldn't get embarrassingly drunk. I wouldn't have a Rambo night with a pistol. Like I wouldn't have any quote unquote fallouts. I just knew logistically I was spending a lot of money. I was highly aware I was doing it. I wasn't like that oblivious. But I had no like I said at that AA references, I had no reason to quit. So I would quit because I'm like this. For off and on, I would do the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 step forward, 1 step back thing. You know, everybody that's drank it, that has tried, and I'd have like I'm winded because I'm talking so fast. So speaking of fitness, disclaimer: I just fought cancer. I'm not cardiovascularly recovered. There's my poor me moment. So I that was off and on for years, and today I'm using my phone. Oh, you can't even see it. What a waste. I have an LCD back there with a logo on the back, and because we're going vertical, you can't fucking see it.
We'll describe it to the audience.
It has my initials. It's really cool. But on my phone, I think I'm like 5.5. This is 5.5 months is the longest I've done probably ever. And I was never a big partier or drinker.
Fuck yeah, dude.
But it was like I said, the biggest thing were my labs, my kidneys. I don't want to get into the nerdery of it, but my kidney numbers and my liver numbers were like pre-cirrhosis for my liver. So I was medically savvy. I was like, well, that doesn't surprise me. And so I had to quit. They had to do some extra scans and all that. And I caught it just in time before it went to cirrhosis. I quit, I think, for about 2 months at that time. And I was able to recover the liver. The liver, thank Christ, is extremely, it's like a salamander tail. Like that shit will grow back. That's not to say, don't test it, because I tested
don't follow
shit.
Jeff.
Yeah. I was like, all right.
Don't follow his footsteps.
How tough is it, God? Good. I'm going to introduce you to Gentleman Jack and have him come in with scissors and start cutting off the tail.
Here goes Jeff Bosley doing the scientific method.
I have an hypothesis. I got to have cause and effect.
And I prove I am an expert.
That was my argument. I'm like, I joke about this, but I have made this joke, especially with this cancer bullshit. I've been like, okay, I don't think I'm a god by any stretch of imagination. I don't think I'm a mutant. I actually do have a mutation for cancer. So super shitty mutation. But I'm like, I think I am the pre-step to the next step of awesomeness. Like there's always shit before the evolution. I'm kind of like fuck. Let's pull these problems out and then learn from him.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're that first fish that had those first nubs.
I'm Frankenstein before they turned him into Wolverine. You know, they're like, conceptually. So long story shorter, I knew it was just 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and it was more just because I was only quitting because I was supposed to. Like I said, I had no reason, and it was extremely frustrating because this is exactly what somebody says as an issue with an alcoholic or a coping mechanism. The following is it actually turned off all these mental tabs that I have on. That's why I'm going a billion miles an hour now. I got 30 things on my mind. It normalized me. You know what
I just read an article about that. Why a lot of people with ADHD and obsessive compulsive disorder also drink. Yeah. Because it dials everything down.
And there's even, insert disclaimer here. I saw something, if I was to quote Huberman, this is really bastardized, but there is a genetic makeup or some part of the populace that actually functions better with alcohol in their system. That's a very loose bastardization of what he said. And, you know, it's not, he actually says in the video something like, it's not a high functioning alcoholic. That's one thing for sure. But it talked about how people, it speaks to the problem at the root, but it is an interesting thing in that the people that consume it, you know, whether it's ADHD or, you know, OCD or whatever I am, it does help them turn, like I always talk about web browsers. I have multiple browsers with multiple monitors, all with multiple tabs open. It turned me off, chilled me out. I wasn't drunk when Betty got home. I actually didn't even get drunk because I had such a tolerance. But it was just more on paper because I knew it was a sign of something that was not, that wasn't freaking rocket science. But it was just because it was so clinically unhealthy. And that's really the only quote unquote why. And the root stuff is still fuck all as far as being worked on. Like time now, it's still a thing. Just sans alcohol, and it super sucks because it was, again, it's not good, but it was a coping mechanism. It actually provided me coping, which on paper, when somebody goes, "Hey, this thing's going to help you cope," like, well, that sounds great. But for me, it was substantial amounts of alcohol. For some people, it's weed, or other psychedelics or whatever, and so that's the long short answer to that, where that went. And it's it sucks, man, because I do like having a glass of whiskey by a fire. Like that is one of my most peaceful things on the planet, is to build a campfire, have a glass of scotch, and just sit there with a dog. Like that is probably more therapeutic than any vet group or therapy thing. Like that is so therapeutic. And and I mean,
I gave up alcohol not because I did lean on it when I was going through my worst.
Yeah.
And there was a fear that, like, hey, this gets easier and easier every time I lean on
100%.
it. And one of the big things that I talk about is I wanted to, I think it was the warrant officer in me is like, okay, I want to break this down. And why is this thing something that I'm still doing? Yeah. Even though I know people are dying, people like me are susceptible to this. I sat down and I broke it down and really looked at why I drank to begin with. When did I start drinking? When did it become a thing for me to drink? And how much did I enjoy it? And just sitting down and just wargaming it on a whiteboard, writing it all out. And I come to realize I was never going to a place to drink and to enjoy it. It was always using it to feel more comfortable because I was around a whole bunch of people, feeling like I had to, and that was the big thing. I felt like I had to. And then if I drank at home, was I really drinking to enjoy it, or was I doing it to escape something? Then I realized, okay, take it back even further. When in my life, in my youth, did I really enjoy it? It was like, no, it was always things that you thought you had to do to fit in.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, like, I don't ever go on my own to a place to go drink. I never seek it out. And then when the next thing was like, okay, let's get comfortable being that person, that odd man out at events.
Yeah.
It's like everybody, that was honest, that was the biggest thing. Like, I'm going to go hang out with friends, or I'm going to go meet individuals that I want to, potentially have a networking, be part of a networking event and be able to like mingle and talk to these people. Everybody always has a drink. And I just started getting water and making it and then just nonchalantly like, hey, no big deal. I'm driving. And then if people continue to press forward, it's like, okay, I don't do it. And making it a known factor of like, I'm not uncomfortable with this. And if it makes you uncomfortable or brings something out, that speaks volumes for you, man. Let me just drink my shitty drink by myself. Let me drink my liquid death and be fine. And I realized that the experiences that I always assumed were like fun for me, it was like, no, going to a bar, never fun. It was never fun. I always stressed out, social anxiety, having to be around people that I maybe didn't want to be around. Maybe I just needed to slam those drinks to get comfortable. And I realized I don't like the nightlife. I don't like going to clubs. I don't like going to bars. That's easy. I'll cut that out of my life. And then when it comes to like the situations of being around dudes and like hanging out, being at a campfire, being able to do all those things, being able to literally do all the things you just shared, and removing the alcohol made it so much better. Shout out to my buddy, John Wayne Walding. We had this amazing outdoor backpacking overland trip, and it was all Green Berets, all Green Berets, all soft guys, not one single drink the entire time. And we're sitting there realizing, like, and I'm perfectly sober at that point. So is John Wayne. A few of the guys weren't, and they're like, man, this is the longest I've gone without drinking. And we're like, not missing out on anything, are you? Like, no, I'm really not. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, man, like, and more more guys need to do that honest broker, that honest assessment to figure out. And if you figure out it's good for you, you want to continue doing it, like, good.
Yeah.
But be aware that it can quickly become something that you're just doing just because.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing.
1,000,000,000%. I think I had this weird inverse alcohol history in that I was really boring in college. I didn't drink till I was like 22, and even then I didn't really live the college experience. And then like I would have spikes like maybe maybe once a month or something, but like they were I'd had the traditional I'm drinking to get plastered drunk moments, but they were like once every couple months. There was no like I'm drinking a nice scotch, because I was in college. You didn't drink a nice scotch, and like that never happened. But then I went off and when I joined the military, because I joined older, I was kind of always a little bit behind, so I didn't relate to my dumbass 18, 19-year-old peers.
Yeah,
I couldn't really hang out with my rank peers, so and as a Delta, I was kind of like the social nerd anyway. So like I never really fit in. So, and because this is a huge like working hypothesis, I'm kind of spitting out of my ass as we speak, but this speaks volumes, and this will actually apply to you, me, and probably any of your listeners, is that when you have healthy distractions, some might call it purpose, some might just call it even if it's a job you hate, but it's, you have a quote unquote reason. In an ideal world, it's purpose. Like that's a little bit more meaty and meaningful. But for me, going through the Q course and all that, it gave me purpose. So like I would drink because I liked it. I might get once in a blue moon, like maybe I think graduation, like I really didn't do anything because the Delta course had me super stressed. I didn't party. I didn't get it. Some of my peers, they pissed me off. Like they were like they could party on the weekends and still pass, and I was I had to study. And I had to study.
Dude, I know those motherfuckers are they're like intellectual gods,
and it just infuriated me. And so like I didn't really need it. I got blitzed every once in a while with like the SEALs, because that was a whole like who has a bigger penis contest, and I do. And so, but like other than that, like there weren't like big things, and it wasn't until and then I went off and did the firefighter thing, and I did a couple, I'd have every once in a while. Then I went off and did that stupid California thing, and I was distracted by purpose or chasing some sort of thing, for me, because I joined older, I was less susceptible to doing like young guy bullshit. So I was chasing the Green Beret, and I was chasing being a firefighter after breaking my back as a Green Beret. So like I had to super focus, and then I went and chased that Hollywood bullcrap, and that gave me super focus, and I was old and boring. And then it wasn't until COVID where like I did the inverse thing, where like a lot of our guys get out, especially a lot of our peers get out, and all of a sudden like the brakes halt. Like I call it like like this purpose inertia wave. For a lot of people, they have that inertia, and I was very fortunate. Like that inertia went through, college, the SF life, firefighting, chasing the California bullcrap, and it just kept. I luckily everything overlapped, so I never had a moment of like. I never had that, what a lot of Green Berets, or anybody I should say, but I only know it from other Green Berets, that, oh, fuck, what's next moment? And it wasn't until I kind of had this weird pause with the California life, and that wave just stopped. And then I was suddenly transported back to where a lot of my peers are when they first ETS after 20 years of being in a group. Shit. And I was like, this is what they feel like, to have no purpose, no idea what the fuck they're going to do. And that's where it caught up, and that's where it hit me, is this weird. So I was like almost like 10 years behind.
Yeah,
100% was like, well, I do, and I was at the age where I liked good tasting scotch, so I liked it for enjoyment. Like I truly, and I was like, okay, if I get a buzz, bonus. I always have said, if somebody could actually make a Gentleman Jack, could fricking make a non-alcoholic Gentleman Jack, I would buy it. I love the taste.
Yeah, dude, I think we gotta look this up. Don't quote me on this, audience. Don't fact check me. I think somebody's making something like that.
I've explored. There are.
It's dog shit.
Yeah, it tastes like somebody liquefied a maple tree. It's. I'm not. It is to what like wheatgrass shakes taste like to wet grass, as to wet wood tastes like to a liquefied log. It's I tried. I really tried. The only thing I've found is Sam Adams. I love Sam Adams. That's not like the best beer on the planet, but they actually make a non-alcoholic, but it tastes really fucking good. Like I could pound those all day long. But anyway, so long story short, that made me realize that whole, and I'm still in the middle of it, to be brutally honest, like that whole like what the fuck purpose thing.
Yeah.
And
let's dive into that, man. Like, what happened in you say your California period? Let's bring it back. So what led you to pursue this path down there?
When I was a kid, and I've said this countless times, and I still truly mean it, I always wanted to be Rambo, and like legitimately saw Rambo, and I hadn't fully formed, I hadn't fully formed, like, there's people that make movies. Even, I wasn't an idiot, but it never formed me like that would be a thing. Like, there's people on my TV that act out these plays. You mean they're in the computer? And so it didn't fully form that way. My dad is an ER doctor, and so like I was around quote unquote normalcy. Like, you go to college, you go to a good job, you retire, die. And he didn't beat that into me by any means, to his credit, but that just was what I expected. So I went the quote unquote normal route, did high school, college, and I just kept beating the college horse to death. Just beat it to death. I didn't graduate after 4 years of watching Spider-Man and sleeping in. Like, I didn't party, I didn't do anything cool. I just had no incentive to be in college.
Yeah.
Took a year off, and that year was just hell on earth. Went back to college in my home state for in-state tuition. Beat the horse to death, enlisted, came back. And then finally, after the Green Beret issued divorce, I had the whole, that was come to Jesus phase, number one of, so what should I do? It was just me, a dog in Colorado Springs, and a lot of my friends go, since you were a kid, we've known you for a long time. Okay, you've done this practical thing. You went and did like the literal practical Rambo thing. You got what you wanted out of it. And like, long story short, I broke my back, but not in the cool Hollywood way, but enough to make me go, do I want to stay? Do I want to go? I don't mind getting back to that by any means, but for the sake of this, did that. And then I said, you know what, fuck it. I will regret it. It was the same reason I did the Green Beret thing. I was like, if I don't do this, I'll regret it. And I hate regret. It's not like it's a easy quote to misquote, but Arnold Schwarzenegger says, like, regret sucks. Like, I fucking hate regret. Like, that is one of my biggest fuels. And I was like, fine, I'll go for it. And it was it's like the antithetical thing of how guys like us are designed. Definitely how I'm designed is to go do something that's so, you literally have no say in your career. Like, I can Oprah it and talk about The Secret and be all artsy fartsy as much as I want, but I can't. Green Beret, you pass checkpoints, you become a Green Beret. Yeah. Like, it's not that black and white, obviously, but it's more, your fate is in your hands, and other assessors, obviously, in cadre. But if you pass these checkpoints, it's more or less certain you'll be at least given a really good chance. So before I got too old, I wanted to do it, because as a kid, I was like, fuck, I love making movies. That would be really cool. Yeah. And I was actually thinking about it, because I knew we'd ask it, and I was thinking about it today. Like, I made a reel the other day from a scene from, sorry, it's SEALs, because they're in everything, of course, but from the Bruce Willis movie, Tears of the Sun. Yeah. And I look at it like those movies, whether not just because they're military movies, I don't want to be that cliche, but like just movies that make you just go, fuck yeah. Or if you're sad or whatever. And that is why I wanted to do that shit. I was like, that just seems awesome. To get to pay to pretend. And then, after, about a decade of it, it's icky, and there's a lot out of your hands, and a lot of guys like us, it's not exactly our world, as much as a cause and effect. And so that can get a little bit demoralizing. And so I don't know if I even answered your question, but yeah. So it wasn't, COVID happened, and then LA shut down, and that kind of had, and then age and all that, I kind of had a lot of come to Jesus's of like what matters. I had a huge service dog that I've had actually I got during my divorce, ETSing from a group, transitioning into firefighting. And my sister at the time goes, you need to get a dog. Like, she's with the undertone of like, you need to keep something alive. I'm worried about you. And she wasn't wrong. And that dog has been like that dog in I Am Legend, that Will Smith movie. Like, that dog was a connected service dog by definition and metaphorically. And she passed. I'd moved to Atlanta to get out of Hollywood. Atlanta was like LA 2.0. She passed.
Yeah, it's a big film and TV.
It is, and it's a little bit more like us. A lot of the stunt people are there, and they're more, dare I say, the blue collar grunts, who I related to more. Like, I like the artsy fartsy pretend shit. Don't get me wrong, I've done a lot of it, but I relate more to like the crew and the stunt people, because they're like, I don't know if it's going to crucify me, but they're kind of like just the worker bees.
Dude, but there's a shitload of soft guys are going into the stunt work. I have seen, I mean, you go to LinkedIn and you'll see former Ranger bag guys, former group guys, SEALs, like all working in Hollywood and Atlanta as well as stuntmen. Friggin', it's like, I can only imagine. I mean, we all know how to fall.
Yeah. That's the thing is, and again, it's because there's no it's not like they check your background, which is good and bad, because I always call it Hollywood psyop, and guys like us, you know, you can extrapolate what that means. Is I will never change their rules because it's a bigger beast, but I will find a way to infiltrate my way in without like breaking my own code or my own morals. I will bend the shit out of them, but I will I want to be like Dave Bautista inside the thing in like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 where he cuts his way out from the inside. Yeah. I'm going to go in there and get swallowed by the Hollywood beast, but I will cut my way out and kill it on my way out, you know? And so that's how I look at it is that. And but the dog passing, I was in Atlanta, COVID happened. And that was like a lot of pauses. And I actually made a mantra when that dog passed, that I'd go, okay, like the proverbial, how long are you going to do this? And that was where I said, I'd made a pact with myself when I had to years before I had to put her down. And that was like, when Izzy goes, like that'll be my time to assess. And that's when I started making the priorities of what matters. And that's where like that inertia wave I was talking about kind of came crashing down, because I was like, oh fuck, I'm not living, eating, and breathing this Hollywood crap. So now what do? You know, do I open up a coffee thing? Do I start a t-shirt business? Do I start and so like I'll
start a podcast.
Exactly. And then it got, and it's to this, you know, time now, it's still very much like, what the fuck, you know, and it's a very surreal, empathetic thing where I'm like, oh, this is what I can think of, like 3 different Green Berets off the top of my head that I've been connected to since I left and they left. And I'm like, I see where they were going through. I luckily had shiny distraction things that I was able to just drag out for a decade plus, you know, and then they were, and so it kind of, that got really deep, but so that was just kind of switched priorities, that whole getting old bullshit, you know, and exhaustion, you know, like what I did in my youth, especially in my early days in LA, I whined if my pillow wasn't right. Whereas in LA, I was like, literally, there was a point I was sleeping in somebody that converted a tough shed into a room. Like it was, you know, and that was kind of a good thing about being a Green Beret going into Hollywood. I was like, you think this doesn't suck? Like I've used the phrase, I should coin it, but I called it,
I have a toilet.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not pooping my pants. It all comes back to pooping your pants.
Full circle.
Exactly.
We did it, Jeff.
How do you like that? But like, I call it my spectrum of suck is like, what truly does suck is what we've been through. Guys that were in way longer than me, like you and others, your spectrum of suck is way wider. So a boot who my tootsies hurt on set, I can't roll my eyes enough when somebody's complaining about their feet hurting. You know, I'm just like, I don't want to be that bro vet, but internally I'm like, I want to rip your heart out like Kali Ma style, because you are a fucking bitch, you know? So, but with that comes exhaustion. You know, you can only go, and I'm a huge hypocrite, because I hated hearing people say this shit when I was going a million miles an hour, where they're like, life's this marathon, not a sprint. And I was like, well, fuck it. I'll die of a heart attack running a sprint pace. But lo and behold, it isn't sustainable. And then it comes, that inertia comes crashing down, and you're kind of just left with like, fuck. And I'm actually really dicky about this when it comes to like Hollywood stuff and people chasing their dreams. I try not to be too big of a dick, but I'm very much like, careful, you know, because we only see the cool shit on social media. We only see the success, you know. So like when I see positive people posting all this hippie optimistic bullshit about Hollywood, I'm like, no, you don't pay your bills with this happy thoughts. And they're like, you know, and I kind of shit on it, because I'm like, people need to tamper expectations. You know, I don't want people to just hug and go, if you go to the Q course, you're going to make it if you believe it. You know, and I fought with this girl, you know, like LA people definitely didn't jive with me, but I'd always relate it to the Green Beret thing. And she was very much into that manifest, Oprah, The Secret stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm in awe of it. Like, they're happy. She was happy and ignorant. And I'm like, props to you. But, you know, I was like, I don't get how you think that way. I couldn't happy thought my way through deployments or the STAR course or whatever the fuck.
No.
I was like,
you can't manifest a cadre.
Yeah, and she goes, well,
intentionally fucking you.
And I was like, I was floored at that headspace of going, she goes, well, you know, if I think enough about a career, that's, you know, I'll get that phone call. I was like, I couldn't translate that, and I failed. I appreciate that optimism because I don't have it, but I think there needs to be somebody in the middle going, use that, but don't rely on it. And so I kind of constantly shit on it, a lot of things when it comes to social media. Like I had a hashtag going because of something Mike Rowe said called "consider quitting." Because some people like they beat that manifest secret, optimism stuff to death, and then lo and behold, they're a 46-year-old guy with cancer, no college degree, and has no purpose because he like beat that thing to death. And like,
well, I want to, and I will politely push back.
Yeah, I'm very hard on myself. This
is a constant thread. Maybe this is the thread of the month.
Yeah.
This is one thing. Cal Newport. Again, I've mentioned it just in a few other podcasts this month, but great author. I have several of his books right here. Recommend Deep Work.
Okay.
It's a great book. But Cal Newport had this great, amazing TED Talk where he basically shit on everybody had a dream. He's like, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Stop trying to go for your passion. You're a piece of shit. Because here's all this true evidence of people that went for their passion.
Yeah.
And they fucking suck and they're failed. And fucking Tim Cook's a piece of shit. And Steve Jobs lied to you when he said to chase your purpose and passion because he didn't do it himself. And if he did, we wouldn't have Apple.
Yeah.
And I will say, Cal, my homeboy, you're right. For a lot of people, yes. Follow Cal's information when he says go find a job or something that's of value to someone and be really good at that. Make yourself really valuable. You'll make lots of money. And then when you have all that money, you can go do the thing you really love.
Yeah.
And that's great advice for young people that haven't done shit for anything and haven't gone off and fought in war. Yeah. But I will counter that. And I will say this, like, if your dream is to do X, Y, and Z, and maybe that first go wasn't going right, like, do the Green Beret thing. Fucking look at every variable, look at every single thing you can, look at others within your realm, within your sphere that you can friggin' connect with to get that little forward momentum. Like you have served, and to all you listening out there going through transition, be willing to bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Be willing to fucking look at the data. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of people that told me I should just go do insurance.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that said maybe you just go do contract work, go do that, but go do the safe thing. The safe thing is not going to get you anywhere close to where you want to be. Maybe you're stressed out and you got to figure out a way to put food on the table. So you do that one secure thing. I get it. I understand completely. But at some point you have to do the deep work and reflect and figure out what you're passionate about and realize, and just like Scott Mann said a little bit ago, if I don't fucking do this one thing, if I don't do this one fucking thing, I'm going to fucking die.
Yes. Yeah.
That is passion.
Yeah.
And you have to honor and listen to that. You do absolutely have to put food on the table. You got to find income. But one thing that we're really good at as veterans is fucking working and outworking other motherfuckers. So maybe you do get a job doing X, Y, and Z. But then you continue chasing your fucking dream. You continue chasing your purpose. Why? And here's the whole reason. Here's the whole reason behind it. For 20 fucking years, you've been gone. And by you, I mean all of us, all veterans. You've been gone fighting a fucking war. And you signed the dotted line to go do somebody else's bidding and to support and save the guys and gals to your left and right. Do everything you could to be a fucking amazing service member. You owe it to yourself and to your kids and everybody that is around your sphere to chase your fucking dreams. Don't fucking wait till you're 70 or 80 in that fucking old person's home to be like, I want to be a fucking professional fly fisherman. Well, it's too late for you, Jimmy. You're about to fucking die. You can't do that now.
Exactly.
Are you fucking happy? Of course not. And it's one of those things where it's like, fuck, Jeff. I see the struggle.
Yeah.
You are very generous with your wounds. You're very generous showing, fuck, this is hard. Right? Take a knee. Take a knee, readdress. Fucking take a knee, drink water, face out, reattack, man. Because let me tell you something. Every motherfucker out there loves a comeback story.
100%.
And maybe it's not today, it's not tomorrow. Maybe it's fucking next month. Maybe it's just readjusting and fucking connecting with the next guy, connecting. Because just like you said earlier, you're now experiencing that same transition shit that all your buddies did right off the bat. is just your phase. It's just your turn.
Yeah.
You just got to keep fucking treading water, man. Tread water, fucking catch your breath, recover. Because, dude, you're not out of the fucking fight, dog. You're not out of the fucking fight.
And that's why, I'm a bordering on. Well, I'm not bordering. I am a hypocrite. Like, and that I'll tell people that, like, if I could extrapolate everything you just said from me, the good, if you will, I still I 100% believe in that. You know, like, and actually I believe in it more the more I get kind of that boohoo, poor me, jaded, beat down, like what the fuck, exhausted thing. There's a point where exhaustion, or whether you want to call it exhaustion, midlife crisis, or whatever weird perspectives that make you value things. I have the word triage tattooed on me, not because of 18 Delta bullshit, but like, which I hate because people think that. But I've always valued triage as a morbid, selective phase of what is going to kill you first. I loved triage before I even joined the military. So it was a huge mantra for me, and obviously it had this weird path that coincidentally just synced in with mass casualty. You know, I was like, oh well, shit, I've been doing triage since I was in diapers. You know, but like it now adds more value to what the fuck matters. So I do believe that I'm hypocritical in my mental, I guess, side of that, or like the consistent application before I let the poo-poo lip take it, because I do firmly, like, to my core, agree and push, like, yes, putting food on your table, yada yada. Trust me, I fight for that, and I do believe in, like, does this X bullshit matter? Because at the end of the day, on your bedside when you're dying, who's gonna matter? What's gonna matter?
Yeah.
That you chase your dream or you're not. And then, like, that's the part I am, if you will, lack of a better term, struggling with, is finding that, I hate this word so much, the balance.
Embrace it.
You know, like, I got to find the balance in that, because I was fortunate up until where I'm going to keep referencing that inertia wave crash, to just be able to situationally, logistically, mentally, or whatever, go a billion miles an hour and have everything, not even if it wasn't in my favor, my mental headspace of chasing it or hunting was in my favor, or some things were slightly going in my way. So it was slightly in my favor. So it was enough of some sort of metaphorical Coke fueled inertia that I was like, that I could just keep on trucking. Yeah. And then it crashed. And that's where I'm with you in that. Yes. What matters is like, because you're going to, and even actually, I got more pissed when I got this cancer diagnosis bullshit. So I was like, fuck, I'm pissed that I chased the Hollywood stuff. Like, I do, just like guys like us, we go a million miles an hour sometimes that's a good thing, but sometimes it's at a fault. So, like, if I did this Hollywood thing to a billion miles an hour, but I would choose to not go visit family on holidays. Really appreciate this. I remember, a war story. We got to have those, of course. I remember at one of my deployments where my parents had to mail me a Ziploc full of 123 batteries. I still actually have the Ziploc here less than 4 feet from me, because my dad, I wonder where I get this from. He's a doctor and he's really good with his money, but he also has the same issues I have, if not worse. He's like, well, he needs a couple batteries. He fucking probably got me a pallet worth of 123 batteries. So they have been lasting me since. Like, that's why I still literally have the Ziploc bag. I have those that he bought me that many batteries. I just remember messaging him. I was like, oh, batteries are short. Fuck. He's like, okay. He airdrops me like a pallet of batteries. I was like, thanks, Dad. God, embarrassing me in front of my friends. Yeah. But this is also the same deployment where we went into one of the team rooms, and on the whiteboard it said, from our team sergeant, this is like, and we just saw it recently in one of the latest things, where Kamala was saying something like, there's no more combat troops. Who was the president at the time? I can't remember who the president was at the time. But that night, we were watching on all of our monitors. It said, who Obama, Clinton? I don't even know. It wasn't Clinton. It's just like, there are no longer combat troops in Iraq, and we're literally jamming mags heading out, and we're like, and this before social media was like super cool, and I was like, this is odd. And then the next,
that was was 2010, because I was there too, and I was in 82nd. They did this huge fucking tinker tape thing with 10th Mountain leaving, and they're like, this is the last of the combat troops. And I remember, like, we're still in fucking Ramadi.
What? And I remember that I want to say it was the same week, or my brain is, I wish I could blame more trauma, but too many things are firing. The synapse is finally just fried. I think it was the same week. We went around into the team room and the team sergeant on our whiteboard. Everything was erased and it just said, no more 9mm, save what you have. I was like, didn't we just say in the news we're not in combat anymore, apparently? And we're also out of ammo. we're Winchester before we've even left the team house. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling.
Like the summary of my rambling before the computer had an AI censoring of me is like, I'm all for that. And I completely agree with all that. But the thing I wish, and that's where I kind of stop people from going too crazy, is like that whole regret sucks goes both ways. Like, so if that, and a thing I love Mike Rowe, he talks about his mom, like she spent something like 60 years trying to publish. And it wasn't until she published her first book at 70. And this is a beautiful thing. I some days when I'm feeling really whiny and poo-poo lipped, I'll repost this thing because Mike Rowe is obviously way more eloquent than me. But he talks about, he goes, some people would argue, good for her, she was resilient, she stuck it out. He goes, I argue she spent her whole life to do this, and now what? And I was like, no side is wrong, because that regret can go both ways. And
Mike does a good way.
And that's
of
where I stole that.
And
that's what I'm saying is like the way he words it is less. It's very subject or objective. It doesn't say don't chase your dreams, but it also doesn't say chase them till you're 80 either. That's where I extrapolated that whole consider quitting mantra. And like, okay, cool, I chased and I did all that thing 1,000,000 miles an hour. I missed so many family holidays because I was okay living the broke life, sleeping in sheds, but I couldn't afford to go see my family. Now I'm like, that fucking sucks. Dad and mom are getting old, and I missed so many years seeing them. So I'm like, there's that balance. And then my final thing that I love this point, and I know you'll agree, because you talked about the people going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then later in life, like cherishing it.
Yeah.
The thing I'll always hear people like, I know The Rock. I use The Rock all the time because apparently I have a jealousy issue. But he talks about, he's like, oh, I wish I would have spent more time with my family and all that. It's like, you wouldn't be who you are had you not made those decisions to sacrifice family to be where you're at. Had you chosen family first and, stop and smell the roses, you'd probably be, working at a gas station. Those very sacrifices is what got you where you are. And so that's why I was like, I kind of shit on those moments when I hear people say that. I'm like, yeah, but stop and think before you sell your soul on this concept and possibly, risk half your life on a gamble. Assess, like you're saying, assess all your ingredients before you kind of go all in, because that ignorance eventually not ignorance, but like there's a faith and ignorance are sometimes a really fine line. And sometimes the fallout is the same. Fallout doesn't care how you got there, whether it was ignorance or faith. So that was supposed to be dark and optimistic.
It's so true, man.
It's hard being me.
It's life. You gotta figure out what's worth.
Well, I literally have
risk.
A poster. Have you seen those things that say like my life in weeks, where you actually mark away your weeks? Shit is unsettling.
Yeah. It's not that big of a fucking poster.
There's a lot of black on it now. But there's a guy I'll bastardize it, and he talks about how to invert what most people do. Most people like spend their life getting normalcy, paying the bills, getting their life settled before they're like, now I'm going to travel the world. And they're like, I'm fucking 60 and my knees hurt. He's like, and it's too late for me and you even, but like, he goes, consider inverting it, travel the world and do all that shit. Obviously, if you're 20, you're not, funds are a little different. Yeah. But then he goes, it's easier to go back to college and do all the quote unquote normal stuff when you're kind of old and tired. I'm like, huh.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Good, interesting point.
I feel like an academic friggin' savant compared to these fucking kids. I just started college
for the first time after. Yes.
Proud of you, man. I'm fucking proud of you. You can fucking do this.
I chose to go to the theater route to finish my good. But also, can you think of a more, again, if they ever hear this or listening, I'm not shitting on these humans, they're great people, but a more polar opposite 18-year-old theater student to 46-year-old former Green Beret, jaded and hating life.
Bro, I just Scott Mann, friggin' Pineapple Express. When he first started exploring that concept of theater, because he had this idea, burning passion to create this play.
I think that's coming here.
He wanted to do it, and he had to figure out how to do it. And he started taking a little coaching on the side, and then finally he went to New York. But he kept doing it like sort of like hidden cloak and dagger type shit, like the trench coat, walking in. But what he realized when he got there is he had passion in sort of these kids. And when he went there and he almost walked away, that teacher, that theater teacher, was willing to tell him, like, no, you belong here. You belong here 100%. Veterans have been storytellers since the fucking invention of war. Like, there is something burning within you. We can refine it and we can help you learn how to tell it through a play. So, bro, you are where you deserve to be. Don't let these fucking kids, like, for one, I feel that life experience has not only taught me how to speak to a lot of kids, because, you know, it's an indoctrination center, and they are being forced with this stuff, and I will more than gladly dive into the collegiate discourse to be like, no, actually, that I'm an immigrant, and I don't feel that white people ever cut me down. In fact, I've had tons of opportunities, and they're like, their brains can't comprehend. They're like,
I'm going to bring you to school for my next show and tell, man. I need you to come with me. I'll put a little papoose on my back.
Please. And here is a Hispanic man that has not been kept down by the white man. Nope. Hey, hi. I fought with lots of great white people. Great, love them. Mwah. Can't say enough great things.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so we're so divided, and in college, when they're met with these ideas that gently counter the forced narrative they have, is like, look, man, I have served and I've fought with every race, color, and creed, and I can tell you right now, I've never felt. That's not to say that some of the people's experience are wildly different. They've experienced some atrocious things, but from my lived experience as an immigrant, as a first-generation college student, as somebody that's a proud, naturalized American citizen, this country has given me so much. And I came here in one hell of an origin story. And I am proud to say this country has given me the opportunity. And I had to act on that opportunity. So it's dude, I feel you going back to school as an older, but don't feel down.
I definitely so much to give those dark humor, because just like the whole liver and alcohol thing, circling back, I had to do a test case. So like, since I did college back from 96 to 2003-ish, 4-ish, that phase of college, military, firefighting, Hollywood, whatever, all that crap, and then back to college, I have decades of space between my college experiences to compare notes, and it's a fascinating case study. It's at my soul's expense, but if I ever publish this paper or something, it is a very fascinating thing to see. Whether it was it was a liberal arts college in Washington to Idaho State University to University of Nebraska in 2024. It's just my poor soul is like, which I can't, who am I compete? I don't know. And then, and obviously the age difference and the life experience you bring to it, ignorance is a wonderful thing. Like there are days where you're just like, I wish I didn't know what I knew, man, exactly.
Back in the Matrix.
I got to drink this away, but I had to quit that. No, but you're right. Like the theater thing, it is fascinating. It's like it is a real. Until you said that, it's funny because I would say some of the most because I did theater in college and I went to like a super ultra method acting 4-year conservatory in LA, and it was it's one of the deeper ones, if you will. And there was a couple of vets there, and they were doing it more just like almost like just bored and curious, whereas I'm like, my life depends on my career, so I was like a little stressed. I wasn't enjoying it as much, I guess, or I was looking at it more like a course I had to take for betterment versus like enjoyment, that whole doing things at to the 100th degree. But they were actually the ones that, like, the vets were the ones that were kind of more, I don't want to say better actors, like that simplifies it, but they were more in touch with like a saturation of, like you said, storytelling. If you get enough dudes in the military, I only know dudes just because in SF at the time we were in, it was just dudes. So and also this also has me now, because of the college years we're in, I'm always walking on glass because we definitely are in a different social structure right now. And I try to be respectful of my, I know my audience, stand my ground, be respectful, pick my battles, yada, yada. But it also makes me constantly like, who have I offended? Oh God, what have I said wrong? Like I got, and I'm not even going to get into it, but like I got pronoun checked multiple times at school, and I'm not an asshole, but I don't think certain ways, and that's just an example. So I'm constantly going, which lane? I don't, just constantly in this phase of stuttering.
Just call everybody mate. Just call everybody mate like you're British. It works.
That's true. So that's why I got all stuttery there. But in the military we were in, there were no females in SF. So that's why I'm not being inclusive, because they weren't.
Now you're canceled.
What is it at the end of, I think, Rocky 5? Sue me for what? Like, oh, take away my Hollywood career. Darn. When. But like there were some dudes in this, like the dudes in SF, like you get the right guy drunk, or just the storytellers or the comedian, or like they could tell yarns. And I was like, that's why Man's and his play, like it comes from a place, like there's a reason those guys can tell those stories so comfortably, whereas like the artsy fartsy kid at this school, they're stressed and like, oh, what's my motivation? What did De Niro do? Meanwhile, a Marine dude is just crushing it because he's just tapping into something. Like he told, how many stories has he told drunk at a bar? And it was funny as hell, and I'm just sitting in the back eating my popcorn going, oh my God, watch this guy just lose it, and it's a fascinating thing. So we went off the rails.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's all good. That's what we do on this show.
I still can't wait for your hat. I'm so excited about that.
Dude. Oh.
That is genius, dude.
Jeff, I can't thank you enough for coming here. But before I let you go, man, dude, you mentioned cancer, and I have to be able to dive into this because this is something that a lot of us are now. I mean, it was brought up in a giant memorandum from the big boss that we all have to start getting checked, man. Like, how did you find out, and where are you at in this cancer journey?
Long story short, I say that a lot, and it never comes true. My dad got it, and I'm going to basically out some family members here. So, as a man, every time you go to the doctor, like it's just default. They say, do you have, is there a history of heart disease or cancer in your family? And you say yes or no. Yep. 3 of his brothers, his older brothers, my dad's the baby, they apparently had this cancer and they didn't tell anybody. And they were able to fight it, beat it quickly and move on because they caught it early. They didn't tell baby brother dad. So I'm trying to be really tactful, but there's a special place in hell for these guys. And so my poor dad, the baby of the family, like he actually might die before his older brothers because they failed to tell. And they actually had if I was to tell you, like they had some sort of like Trump, like Ricky Lake talk show relationship, you're like, oh, no wonder they didn't tell them. They actually, up until this, had a good relationship, like a normal brothers relationship. So it's very confusing. It's still a weird thing in our family as to why nobody said anything. So dad kind of took the brunt of it. And as he did the right thing, called me, my brother, and my sister, and said, hey, get some shit checked out, and we actually had some testing done. And that's where I said I had the worst mutation possible. Instead of getting, adamantium claws, I got these 3 cancer mutations that basically promised me to get cancer.
Oh, shit.
Or 2 out of these 3 genetic mutations. So I knew it was coming, if you will. So since I was almost like 35-ish, I had been screening way in advance because like they don't tell you to start screening. But then you add to that deployment. I mean, there's even studies that, do you know Jeff Dardia of Task Force Dagger? Yep. I love all the studies he talks about, but just sheer, not because special operations are better, but just from the sheer statistical standpoint of the amount of ammo we handle. It's not because we think we're better. Yep. But I know,
no, it's a good, it's a group, it's a great community to study because everything is right maxed there.
Like, you can take a radiology tech that has to qualify at the range every 9 months. They touch maybe 30 rounds. We touch 30 rounds in 10 minutes. And then we, I love his studies, and then we eat all that lead, So because of him and Task Force Dagger, so we ate all the lead, or we have a predilection for it. So I knew that. I ate enough fire at the fire department. Obviously I'm a ball of stress. So whatever belief system people have as far as your spirit fueling cancer, I definitely had the trifecta of it. And I was actually doing good. And I get my labs checked quarterly, and it's prostate cancer. And so you get a PSA, it's prostate specific antigen. Every guy gets it. It should start getting it, I think, around 45 is the thing. I would say ask your doctor to throw it in your labs earlier. It's not going to hurt. It's like, it's not going to cost you anything if you have decent insurance. My labs were 0000. That's the simplified version. And then it went up to like 6. It went sixfold. And this was in May. So, this year. And that jump is very indicative of like something's wrong. And, long story short, absolutely prostate cancer, and, not subtle. I went through all the diagnostics and all that. And, this is definitely like, there's a lot, like, I have yet to like formulate what I'm going to do with all this shit. But there's no right time to get cancer for sure. But like, definitely I was not in the headspace for it, because I was like, the Jeff that I see on Facebook memories, I'm like, oh God, that fucker is motivational and happy and like energetic. I'm like, why couldn't that guy get cancer? I'm the guy that's like tired and just wants to sit on the couch and is looking for purpose. I'm like, God damn.
I need a time tally machine right now.
That guy would be like, I'm going to open up a YouTube channel on how to fight cancer. And this guy right here is like, I'm going to do a YouTube channel on the drawbacks of cancer. It's like, so I got it. And I was like, fuck, man, one more thing. But I kind of just took emotion out of it. And I was like, I hate losing. And because the 18 Delta thing, my love of fitness, I just went balls to the wall on. And because we live in a world of the internet, we can see a lot more. I didn't go to Peter Attia, if you know who he is. He's okay. So my cert.
Yep.
Okay.
Another one of his books right there. Got it in there.
Yep. I have it.
Outlive.
So my surgeon was actually on his show, and which is good. That's where I say social media is a good thing. You're like, oh shit, and I could see his talk and I could see his attitude. But then because of the internet, I could actually go to these urology conferences, which are boring as shit unless you have prostate cancer or you're a urologist.
Yeah. So
I started stalking him because of the internet, and I found that, and I found this, and so I used my 18 Delta thing, my obsession with fitness. Guys like us, I don't know about you, but like, we're professional patients. Like the amount of injuries I've had, whether military induced, personal, like just I don't sit idle, and it comes at a cost. I've become a really good way to like examine, educate, and I have like a routine now. Like, I know exactly what protein shakes I'm going to drink when I have to cleanse for a colonoscopy. Like, I have a system. I should start a book or write a book on this. So anyway, I got the surgery in Chicago the day before September 11th this year. The doctor's name, I'll plug him because any vet that has a chance or a way to do his name, Dr. Shaper, Northwestern Medicine. Hunter 7 saved my ass to help me get out there and work with him. And basically, they cut it all out. Thank God. They caught it just before, and this is a little too deep. And this is actually where I want to actually do something, and I definitely know you'll appreciate this, is I want to facilitate something where guys like us, this almost goes back to like the mental health thing, with especially in our community, where it was like, do it, but don't talk about it. When it's like, fuck, why does it matter? Like, why is it such a weird thing to talk about? Like, I wish dudes would talk more about prostate cancer. I'm sure everybody talks about that after they get it. But as an 18 Delta, I didn't care. Like, before, I've always been been okay with medicine and gross stuff. But it's so weird that it's such a non-discussed thing. So I'm like, I wish more people just like check this shit, and it's free and all that. I have like 9 soapboxes I just tried to step on right there, and I fell off of all of them. Got it cut out. It's not as much of a to cut to the chase here. It's not as easy as, oh, it's cut out, you're cancer free. And this is where I'm like a little pissy. It's almost like my whole like chase your dreams thing, where I don't want to discourage people, but I also want people to realize some of the realities. Like, there's some like not good fallout as far as that should go away. It's not like the movies where it's like, oh, he vomits in a toilet and fast forward 2 hours in the movie and he's cancer free. Like, there's some bullshit that just fucking infuriates me daily. Technically cancer free, and so this was in September. So I'm only, I think Thursday was 8 weeks. Still dealing with a lot of the fallout. It's ironic. This is like a cancer. You go in asymptomatic, and guys like us, it's like, you want to, like, if you're going to go get bedbound after a surgery or be like hospitalized, you want to go in with a limp, just barely holding on. This thing, you go in, you're like, I feel great. I lost all this weight. I was in super great shape again, and I was feeling great. And I came out just like I got hit by a truck. Like, this is the worst surgery I've. Yeah, I was
Complete
like, why
opposite.
did I come in here? You made me worse.
Dog shit.
Like I always reference.
Give me the cancer back.
That's what I said. It's like I referenced when I broke my back and had spine surgery. I was like, this is the worst surgery I've ever had. And spine surgery was pretty damn bad. And the fallout is there's not a guy on the planet that'd be like, this one disease that I don't know I have, or all this fallout with the parts of my body I value the most. I'll take that disease thing. like no dude, whether you're a man whore or a very dedicated family man, wants to fuck with that area. And I think that's what comes with like the whole prostate cancer thing. And it is a weird little like, don't look, it doesn't exist thing. But it's definitely something to catch sooner than later for sure, because poor dad didn't. And like they have to put him on testosterone blockers. So he's essentially chemically castrated. So, I mean, he's basically on male menopause chemically and fighting cancer. So that's the long story, because obviously I'm really passionate about it. I'm technically good, still recovering. I might have just blown a damned yesterday, tore my abdominal wall. So, yeah.
Fuck,
so like
man.
the only thing I have, not in a depressing way, like I mean this motivationally, and guys like us, I definitely know this is something you and a lot of people in your realm will relate to. Like I still value, not because I think I'm awesome, like I can't run for shit. I still value my whether it's fucking CrossFit or Jim Jones or bodybuilding or whatever, rucking. That 2 hours of my day is like the only thing I still to this day, whether I don't have a purpose or not. And then so like that is critical for me. And so like I might have been pushing it the other day. I'm like, fuck, my organs are coming out of my abs. I was
Maybe
like,
we work on
the
mind,
sexy, right?
mind and spirit pillars. The body needs to take a chill pill for a little bit. Let's
mind and spirit.
You shut your goddamn mind. I don't need it.
God, glad Betty not here. You'd hear her like upstairs going, I agree. You can't.
Yeah, man. You gotta when the body needs to recover, you gotta work on the mind and spirit. And I would.
And it makes you. That's
one of the things that
it makes you.
I never had it, and when I fell the fuck apart, I didn't have any fucking pillars. And when I got on the backside and built everything back up, it was like fucking Voltron, Captain Planet, Power Rangers, whatever it is. It's you form those little robots of mind, body, and spirit, and then they transform you into that full Voltron robot. Take that analogy.
I will agree because I hate when people like agree in an ideal situation, or like, or like they come from a place of ideals. So like, they mean well, but it doesn't feel as relatable. So I'm actually agreeing with you because I'm not with you on that. I know on paper what you're saying is right. And so I 100% agree that because I'm at the other side of it going, it took my body and it's out of commission for a while. And now, like you said, I am exposed with the body and the mind and spirit, and those weren't in check. To be clear, I'm safe. I'm not, there's no, in our community, there's a huge thing. Like, and I actually say this to a lot of people, like when I'm checking in with Hunter 7 and everything, understandably, like that's one of the first things I say. I'm like, I'm safe. Yeah. I'm in this headspace, but I am safe.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I know there's nothing wrong with it, but because you have quite a platform, I want to make sure like people aren't knocking at my door, putting me on like Firewatch now. And I'm like, oh, no.
Hey, don't worry, people. Yes, I will be at Jeff's house this week.
Luckily, that's never been in my headspace, thank Christ. But like, like you're 100% right. Life will find a way to make you evaluate those. It'll take something from you. Dude. And luckily, I've always had 2 out of 3 firing, and then that inertia thing happened, and then the body shit took. I'm like, no. All I had was my body.
Yeah.
You motherfucker. Damn you. I was so proud I wasn't wetting my pants at night. That's all I asked for out of this. And it circles right back.
Man, another full circle.
Yeah.
If you're not peeing your pants, dog, you're not part of the operator syndrome club.
I made a joke. I was like, at least when I was peeing my pants under a firefight, it was cool. Now I'm like doing it in shame in the gym.
Yeah. Yeah, now they can prescribe you Cialis, not just for getting boners, but so you don't piss your pants. It's a gift that keeps on giving, folks. If you didn't know about that, talk to your doctor.
I've learned a lot.
Yeah. Dude, there's no shame in it, and everybody finds their way into building those. And like I said, it was extremely humbling to go to a place where you can't be trusted to have shoelaces, to be escorted everywhere you go, to sit down with a provider multiple times. But what I learned in that experience and all those years ago at Laurel Ridge is that there is a beauty in having to rebuild, because then you're back at square one, and you don't have anybody else influencing that. And I am grateful for those painful, horrible lessons. And if you're listening and you need that little bit of hope, common humanity, whatever you're going through, there's people like me, people like Jeff, tons of brothers and sisters out there that are going through this right now or have been through it. And I can empathize with you. I can sit there and I'll climb down into that hole and sit there and not say like, oh, that looks bad. No, that's shitty. No. I can say, it is shitty. And I am here for you. I can tell you. And it's not to put the silver lining, because that's the worst thing you need to hear. Oh, it's going to get better. No, it's, it sucks right now. 100% know that this sucks and this is painful. And on the counter side, you are somebody that has been through worse. You have fought tooth and nail at other points. Like, Jeff's going to make it through this. Like, cancer's not going to be the end note. Like, this is just a momentary take a knee situation, and we're in a shitty draw, and we're having to do a map check. But we realized that the map got left with 3 draws back. And right now, it's just a fucking place of suck. It's just, and what do you do when you're in that draw? What do you do when you're just sucking? You just laugh. You laugh. And you take a knee for that moment. Then you're like, all right, I'm going to have to go back and find that map. And it just know you're not alone, brother. Like,
Betty has a cool thing that she said. Betty's my better. I call her pre-fiance, which is basically means a guy that hasn't proposed. I'm not saying that for comedy. I literally call her that, because being 46 and saying girlfriend feels like sounds creepy. But she says something very similar, like when you're not alone. Like she needs to, and I'm kissing her ass here, but I genuinely mean this. Like, she needs to work with like Hunter 7 or anybody that does like the allostatic load thing. Like, her headspace, she's very much our mindset with this clinical, ruthless partner headspace. Like, I just blanked on the 2 people that what's his name, the husband and wife that run Task Force, or not Task Force. Yes,
Tom and Jen Satterley.
Thank you.
Look at that. Weaponized autism just synced.
I will just say
none
weird
of those
syllables,
and
you'll read my mind. But she has a very Jen Satterley like ruthless partner headspace. And one of the things she said in the spirit of "You're not alone," and I'm saying this to you, to everybody listening also, and it speaks to guys like us, especially because sometimes you don't want to hear it from, or it seems like, well, no shit, hearing it from you got it, or hearing it from another buddy of mine that it's like, well, you better, duh. But when you hear it from like your partner, your family, it seems slightly disconnected, because it's like, you don't know, man. But one thing Betty says, because she doesn't know, like, she bought that book, Operator Syndrome, and she loved that book, and that kind of opened her up a little bit. But she says something like you said, when you're climbing in that hole, she has this great thing that I think a lot of people, or partners or spouses or whatever, that should adapt. Here's my little shitty advice of the day, is she goes, she's so much more eloquent about it, but like, if somebody has a knife stuck in their head, or if I have a knife stuck in my head, this is obviously a metaphor, and she'll come up to me and she goes, okay, I have an idea how to take it out, or do you just want me to sit there and you complain about the knife in your head? She goes, I'm either one, just tell me which one, but either way, I'm with you for it. Because all too often people are like, I have an idea how to take the knife out of the head. I have an idea. And you're like, leave the fucking knife alone. But it's on us to go, hey, actually, I'll take some advice to get this knife out of my head. But either way, the thing she said, like being in the hole with me or others in this scenario, is, I think that's a cool nuance that Betty spun to it, of I'm in the hole with you and I have ideas, or I'll just sit here in silence, and I think that's a huge thing that people like the Satterleys, whether it's all these name dropping things I'll say, is I think there's a huge good push. Some, unfortunately for some, and I definitely know you can relate to this, for some it's too late, in the most sad sense. But I think it's like you said, 20 years now, the things have come to roost, and a lot of people, like, if I'm experiencing an 8 of what my peers that were in for 20 years like if that's all they live, eat, and breathe and have known since they're 18, fuck, you know, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
like, oh, dude, you know, there's just days I'm just like, oh, so that was, yeah, I don't know. I just had to polish that turd on that comment.
Hell yeah, man. You polish away, Jeff.
Sorry, this was a very, maybe I'm ADHD, but I could talk to you for hours.
No, man, this is authentic, real. And no, dude, it's an absolute pleasure, man. People need to understand that we go through life the way we go through life. It doesn't happen in A, B, and C blocks. And your journey right now is something that we all need to understand. Like you said it perfectly. Like I had something that I was going through that I was chasing as I transitioned. But now I'm going through that transition. Yeah. Going through this. And this is where Jeff can reflect back. And this is what the whole podcast is being able to highlight these stories in every aspect of it, the good, bad, the indifferent, because you never know who's going to reach out and say, hey, I got a resource for Jeff. I'd love Jeff to come do X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, Jeff gave me great insight into something I'm going through. Like your story and your vulnerability with your own process can help somebody today or tomorrow. That's the beauty of this medium, man. Like people can pick this episode up and then help.
And I really think that's a huge thing when I try to be more a little bit, I say hippie-ish, and I don't actually mean that derogatory. I actually just mean that less me, more hippie-ish. That all too often, not counting your show, but like all too often people aren't hit with like the reality. Like, and I think that really, I don't have kids, but I think it really fucks up perception of what a success and a failure is. And I think that's up to platforms like yours or, you know, me in a better delivery system, like telling it like it is, like being like, I don't want, if you constantly see like, whether it's body dysmorphia on the internet or success dysmorphia, you're going like, that's your standard. And until people start to go, you know, like, oh, fuck, I tried this and it fucking sucked. Or, oh, I'm a drinker. Or, you know, like you're like, oh, fuck. Okay. There is a reality that's less perfect than what we're hit with. And I think a lot more people need shows like yours. And I maybe I'm just trying to make myself feel better about being rude sometimes. But like, I think like more people need to kind of be less polished, I guess, and actually tell these truths, because fuck, like I can think of 2 Green Berets. I'm like, Jesus, man, I can't imagine the headspace they're in, you know, most of the time. Or some poor 18-year-old kid that just did his 2 years and has like my best friend. I'm going off on 9 tangents, and I'll keep this one short, I promise. So one of my best friends went to Tora Bora, and that was like his experience was like the whole not Ruby Ridge. Tora Bora, that whole 101st scenario. So like he lived the short career at an 11, and that was like super effed up, understandably. And it's like your brain can't handle that, you know, especially if you're young. So like you said, the young people or whatever, like especially younger generations that are just being bombarded with internet ideal scenario of internet. You know, they're like, I think it's more susceptible, ironically, for people to be more scared to be out about this stuff, because ironically the stuff that's out there polishes that everything's great, you know, and so like people are more apt to be like, oh, I'm an anomaly, or mental health or weakness is an anomaly, when in reality it's like, fuck, when are these two things going to communicate at the same time, you know? So anyway, cut my mic off, man.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Fuck no.
Your battery taking a shit was on purpose.
This is Unfiltered Jeff all day, every day.
I'm going to set up this whole basement series with these pretty blue lights. You're going to get me for 3 fucking hours.
Exactly. I'm under contract, goddammit.
I bought these fancy batteries so I didn't have to run cables, and we're going to use them until they die.
Jeff Bosley, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, Jeff, thank you so much for being here, brother. I cannot wait to hear about the rest of your recovery. Please take some time off from working out so you can heal. And I can't wait to have you back on the show to talk about the next phase, next chapter in your journey, man. Because I know it's going to be great. Once again, if people want to get a hold of you or follow along in your journey, how can they find you? I claimed on every platform the Jeff Bosley. I figured the least narcissistic handle I could find was the Jeff Bosley. Nice. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Go to the episode description. Follow Jeff on his journey. And to all y'all tuning in and listening, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. And until we see you next time, please take care of each other and yourselves.